As we just covered in Wide World of Metal, you listened to the Agonizer album from the band Acid Mass. We covered their covered this guy's here previous work before. We're big fans of this band. This is Mr. Ben Ricketts, the man behind the band Acid Mass. What's going on, man? How are you?
And thanks for having me. Also, I wanted to say thanks a ton for that killer review on Lust for Violence. A lot. I appreciate that.
Dude, I have outplayed Lust for Violence at the gym so much. That has been like a go-to of mine since I found it. And now Agonizer is like, right up there with it. Why don't you tell people a little bit about like, your background, your history with music, kind of like where you come from. I know you're Ohio native, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Cincinnati born and raised. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I grew up like my dad was like into thrash and stuff like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, I grew up on like Anthrax and Overkill, Metallica, and Slayer tapes. You know what I mean? And
Awesome.
that was always my shit. And then I got into punk a little bit later. And yeah, most of my bands and shit that I've done over the years have been punk bands. And like I just could never quite find the right people to get a metal band going.
Hardest part, dude. It's the hardest part about any band. So
People's schedules and like what they want to do and all, it's just, it can be tricky. But yeah, I don't know. I went through some shit this past winter and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it by myself and see what happens. And here we are.
So that kind of like leads me to the question of being like, when you started Acid Mass, was this always going to be like a solo project? Was this something that you set out to do on your own? Was there inspiration to like make it into a band, or was it just like, dude, I'm tired of that whole rigmarole. I'm gonna like do what I really want to do.
Well, I don't mean to get like too heavy or dark or whatever, but the way this all came about is last October, my best friend died, right?
Oh
And
no
so
shit.
I there's a lot of fucking big feelings with that. You know what I mean? So like I was like, I guess I'm just gonna lock myself in my apartment and play guitar. You know what I mean? And like
You know,
record it.
they do say that a lot of times, like through like the most challenging times or whatever, comes like the best artwork or like the most inspiration that you could really dig into. And if what you've done since then is this, man, then like you've really kind of tapped into something that you've put that into a good place at least, man. Because this music it's absolutely incredible.
Man, I super appreciate that. I honestly never expected any of this to go this far. At first, it was just me sitting around, like, just making songs that I thought sounded cool. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
no, really releasing them or anything. And yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of taken off. It's crazy. And uh, some people will probably be happy to hear that towards the end of the month, practices are going to start happening for a live band.
Oh
So,
no shit, dude. I mean, people must want that, The attention that this the new album is getting is unbelievable. It's well deserved too, mind you. But like, it's people are gonna want to see these albums, be played out live and shit like that. Uh, I'm excited to see that. Hopefully, being here in the Northeast, I'm in the area where I'm gonna be able to catch a show, dude, because I will be there for sure. So when you're doing these albums, uh, you're doing everything, correct? I mean, front to back.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I should say up front, like, I was reading a review recently where somebody was like, dude, this guy rips on drums. I, I'm a drummer first before anything, but I don't play drums, this stuff.
Oh no shit. That was going to be one of my questions. Like, what do you do for the drum tracks?
So I just have a program that I use to just like program everything into, because I mean, I live in an apartment,
Yeah.
so drums in an apartment wouldn't
I
go very well.
I don't think that should be understated though, man. Like, to say yeah, it's programmed drums or whatever. Not anybody can really take a program like Superior Drummer or something like Get Good Drums and put together something that's as cohesive and makes sense. I mean, anyone could take the loops and stuff like that, but when you listen to your albums, the drumming is not like it's not cut and paste, man. There's like you could tell that you're a drummer, I guess is like the main thing because you understand how to build drumming. You understand how to like make the fills make sense and like, transition into different sections. And that's something that I think is a little bit of an art form in of itself when you're doing the programming.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a big worry for me at first. Was like I didn't want it to sound like too mechanical or some shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of lucked out, and it just like kind of clicked and made sense to me on how to do it like really quickly. I think because I am a drummer, like you said.
For me, I'm not a drummer, so I have like these good programs, and I'm kind of like doing my own one man thing here. I think kind of a lot of people in our age group who've been through bands and stuff. This is kind of where we're at now. And it's something that I struggle with so much is actually building the drumming to make it make sense as like a drummer would do it. You know, I'm a guitar player at heart, so my hats off to you for really building the albums that are very cohesive because I think that's something that not a lot of one man bands can pull off, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So like you're not doing. Are you like mixing and mastering all of these or well? Or are you actually sending that out?
The only thing I don't do is mastering. And I got to give my dude Todd a shout out for Fuzzy Eyed Studios here in Cincinnati. He masters all my shit and just makes it sound like insanely huge. You know what I mean? Like but yeah, I do everything aside from the mastering. Yeah.
That is one thing that you know, the sound of like what the acid mass sound, I guess we can call it, is this kind of like it's you know reminiscent of like that old school thrash, but it has this like gritty fucking like black metal thing going on at times too that I just really tap into. I'm a big fan of like black rock and roll. And I get a little bit of that, but it's like black rock and roll turn the fuck up to like thrash level, and the dirtiness of like the sound. And I don't mean dirty as like oh it's a shitty quality, but it has like a real grit and like you know street feel to it that I think would. And then when we talked about when you were making this album, I kind of spoke to you a lot about it, and I was like, man, I hope it doesn't lose that that grittiness that Lust had and stuff. And you're like, nah, dude, I think this is gonna be you know turned up a little bit more. And I gotta say, the Agonizer album was well worth the wait in my opinion. It's kind of come to you know give me everything I liked from Lust from Violence, but like you know just a little bit more polished, man. I think you really kind of come into it on this one a little bit. So, uh, what's like what's your favorite track? You know, was there a sleeper track on here that you think is better than the rest or something like that, or is it all kind of like just a big love letter to the type of music that you like?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think overall it's definitely a love letter to bands like Sodom and Bulldozer and shit like that. But I I think my favorite track on the record is Christ Crusher.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
great one.
I think the sleeper that it's just super fun to play is Mental Hell, just because that riff is just so fucking mean. And like when it was like one of those situations where I was just sitting around one day, like dicking around on guitar, and that just kind of I started kind of playing that, and I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? I was like, that's tough as shit, and like
And
not
pushing
brand.
yourself is like whenever you have like that riff where you push yourself, you're like, this is tough for me to play. Like that's when you know you're kind of like tapping into something. I think, or you're like it's making you uncomfortable, and it kind of gives you that push to like really dial it in. And that's something that is true about this album. That you know, yeah, it's a thrash album, and sometimes they can get a little bit stale. You know, a lot of riffs can be very repetitive from band to band. You know, album to album. This does have some very unique interesting dynamic like riff building and when we were like talking about it as you were doing it and you were sharing some stuff with me I was like man uh the riff building of this album I think is where you kind of really shine and it's like you know the Mental Hell is one of those songs where I was like dude very interesting riff. It doesn't make me you know get like complacent while listening to it like you know like sometimes you're like yeah I know this riff from this album it sounds just like that. So it's cool to hear you say that like Mental Hell was one of your favorites because of that reason. For me, like Torture Rack, I think is like another one of those like sleeper tracks on here because of the riffs in it, man. Like that opening riff to Torture Rack, you want to fucking get in a pit and just start throwing down. It's so people like you get the chance to see this live. I 100% definitely go see this fucking shit go down because I will definitely be there, man. I'm excited for that.
I'd love to get up that way. It'd be great.
So let's see here, man. Let's talk a little bit about like the gear that you used for this album. Like you know, we talked a lot about guitars. I know you're a Jackson guy. What was the main guitar used here?
It's I think it's a 2022 Kelly X series.
Hell yeah, just
I
a
mean,
gunner, just a fucking sling gunner, dude. Like no frills, just fucking metal guitar. I like that.
and I mean, man, I'll just be like super honest. I'm a drummer, right? So like drum gear, I can talk about all fucking day long. Guitar gear is completely new to me.
Come
Not
on,
like
for
but like I'm a noob for sure. You know.
dude, like you're the solos in this album. Don't you can't say that you're a noob when you're playing shit like that because there's a lot of people that are gonna get pissed, myself included. I've been playing for fucking a long time, dude, and like these solos are impressive. So you maybe not know the gear very well, but you definitely know your way around the fretboard. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess, yeah, I've been playing for a long time. Like my dad was also a guitar player, so I grew up with him. Like we used to sit around and he would play like songs off of Kill 'Em All on guitar, and he bought
Oh,
me a drum when
hell
I was
yeah.
younger, play along on drums. You know what I mean? But so I would always fuck around with his guitars and stuff. But like as far as taking it really, really seriously and getting into the gear aspect of it, this like I'm a super rookie at that stuff.
So now with like the bass, is it the same thing? Just kind of like you just know bass kind of just by default of being around music for so long and stuff like that, kind of learning the guitar. I feel like if you play guitar, you can get a general understanding of how to play the bass.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things that's like, okay, take this riff and just like dissect it a little bit and then play that. You know what I mean?
So what's the dream guitar, dude? What's like the one?
Oh man, this is a tough question because I think I'm about to buy it like pretty soon,
You showed me a picture of this thing, dude, and
dude.
it's a fucking beautiful guitar. I gotta say.
So there's two that I'm like, I would kill to have either. One is it's at a local shop up here. It's a 1984 Gibson XLP. It's like this weird Explorer body style with this little weird cutout. It looks crazy. You don't see very many. It plays like butter, man. And the other one, and people give me shit about this all the time, is I really want a Kramer Dave Mustaine Vanguard V, man.
Dude,
Can't help.
there's nothing to be ashamed of about wanting an old school Kramer. Those fucking things rip, dude. Big fan
It.
of them.
Yeah, they're insane. Like I have a Kramer V here, but
Does it
it's
have
it's
like the big like hockey puck or the fucking hockey paddle like head on it? Those like giant like Kramer old school heads on them. I love that look.
like more of it's pretty similar. I keep looking over here because both my guitars are hanging up over here. They're pretty much the Jackson and the Kramer that I have pretty much the same headstock.
Because some of those old headstocks, man, are like these like they look like hockey sticks at the end of them. The way the fucking Kramer heads look, they're like giant bananas. They're fucking hilarious, but they're awesome guitars, man. I got no hate in that. So do you think like Jackson King of Guitars is that like, or do you think it really is Gibson? Like, what would be like the best company in your opinion?
For for my tastes and my preferences and what I like to play, it's Jackson all day.
100%, dude.
Yeah,
My Rhodes it's the best guitar I've ever played in my life. All the Jacksons I've played are like that though. Even the cheaper ones that I've owned have been
yeah,
extremely well playing.
right.
So like, with that being said, what's the worst guitar company out there, and more so, why is it Schecter Guitars? Like, what's the hate with Schecter? Everybody likes to give out.
I think it's my main complaint about Schecters is that like they just rode Avenged Sevenfold's dick so
Dude,
hard.
I was just gonna say, is it more of like an Avenged Sevenfold hate than it is like a Schecter hate? Like they
That,
unfortunately got tied into that band so hard. That's
that's
that's that's so
yeah.
funny that you said that. That was my first thought exactly too. So, because okay, I'm not gonna lie. I've played some Schecter guitars. They're not bad playing guitars.
No,
They play pretty fucking decently. They came. I had one with like I had a 7 string with like the Duncan blackouts on it. Amazing sounding guitar, dude. But at the same time, I just kind of cringed every time I was playing it, seeing that name brand. So, but that's just obviously Schecter is fine. It's a whatever thing. It's an inside joke about guitars. But dude, I appreciate you sitting down with us. Everybody has to go check out this Agonizer album. I think that if you're into fucking thrash metal, if you're into black metal, if you're into like just classic fucking heavy metal, dude, this kind of like hits all those areas. We didn't even mention the vocals on it. The fact that you're doing that too is, I think there's something to be said about that. So you're gonna be doing the vocals live as well.
yeah, I'll be singing and playing guitar
So
in the.
have you done that before?
No, I've never played guitar. Played drums.
Dude, I'm telling you, like it's a it's like a skillful art form to be able to like do the two together. For me, when I start like singing, I've gotten better at it, but when I started doing it, man, I was like instantly the riff fell apart on me. So, but dude, I had a drummer that was a singer and it was incredible to watch the dude go. So some people are just natural at it, and you seem to have like a natural gift for music, man, to be able to put this out by yourself. So, once again, dude, Ben Ricketts from Acid Mass, dude, thank you so much for sitting down with us here at Bad Taste. And we look forward to seeing you on the road, brother.
Yeah, man, I appreciate everything.
Hell yeah. Have a good night, brother.
You, man.